Greetings, fellow detectives. WizardKitten here, bringing you Nancy Drew commentary, clues, and cookies, and bringing you part 2 of our speed build of Shadow Ranch from Nancy Drew's Secret of Shadow Ranch. In part 1, we kind of got to see the interior that we see in the game come together. We got to see that living room area, that kitchen area, and kind of the starting layout of the entire yard space. And this part will include finishing up that exterior, getting each of the individual buildings, kind of the pump house, the chicken coop, and the stables all figured out, and then adding on the areas of the house that we don't get to see in game. So those are ones that I imagined myself using the same style from the game and then trying to translate that into an actual house. So here we are doing probably the most difficult part of this entire build, which was trying to figure out how to make the pump house look like the pump house and also still have the, spoiler alert, secret passageway. I had to play around with the stairs for quite a while to get them to actually work. Getting the actual shelves in here were not a big deal. I used one from Dine Out and one from Strangerville. Those look awesome. I put a couple of pipes in here since there's definitely a big pipe system throughout the build, but really the tricky part was getting that basement area and the stairs because I wanted to have the secret passageway to make this build feel more authentic and feel like it actually did in-game. But what it was doing is it was clipping with the roof, the stairs were, and it would not let me put in the stairs the way that I wanted to. I do figure it out eventually, but we're going to be here for a while trying to figure out these stairs. Sorry if you guys can hear those little notifications that pop up every once in a while. I've tried to turn those off, but can't get them to. So anyway, while we're sitting here trying to figure out the stairs, I mentioned this in part 1, but I wanted to mention it in part 2 as well, just in case people see different parts. But I have, during this time of social distancing and working from home remotely, been doing a little bit of streaming of the Nancy Drew games. I streamed Secrets Can Kill Remaster and Stay Tuned for Danger on Twitch, and a couple of people were able to join, but I'm curious if people would prefer if I were to stream on YouTube. I just want as many people to be able to join as possible. So if that's something that you are interested in, can you let me know in the comments down below if you would prefer if those streams were on Twitch or if they were on YouTube, where I would stream live on YouTube. Yeah. I'll continue to make videos and everything still in my spare time. It's weird because I'm still definitely very busy. For those that don't know, I'm a speech therapist and I work in an elementary school. So we are currently planning remote learning, which means we're doing lesson planning for students to complete while they are at home. So still very busy and still working on a lot of things. But because I'm at home and there's just less travel to be done and I'm going fewer places, that makes it so that I just feel like I have extra time to be able to do a little bit of Nancy Drew stuff. Nancy Drew time that I haven't had an opportunity to do since, I don't know, October, January, not consistently anyway. And I don't know how consistent this time will be either because there's just a lot of uncertainty going on right now. But if you are interested in seeing a stream, coming to a stream, just let me know in the comments down below what format you think would be best. So we did actually figure out the very complicated pump house. I'm not sure if it's functional. I haven't tested it. It might just be for show. There's nothing that your Sims can interact with down there anyway. It's definitely just a glorified storage shed or like a basement. And I didn't connect it to the actual house either because the stairs would have needed to go up into the house, and it would have messed up with the floor plan that we actually use within the house. So it doesn't connect to the house all the way. It's right beneath the house. It's right where it would be normally. And if you really wanted to, you probably could add some stairs and make that work. But yeah, just have to see. So now here, what we're doing is I put in some trucks from the debug menu. So again, these are not found in the regular Sims 4 catalog. You have to use a cheat to find these because they're cars that actually move around in the city. But I figured that they would have a bunch of trucks and kind of like a little parking area for all of the guys that come during the day. So part of what I imagined when I was working on this is that the cowboys, Dave and Shorty and Tex, I imagined that they would not live on the ranch. I figured that they would commute to the ranch. And my reasoning for that, or my thought process behind that, was that if they actually lived at the ranch and Uncle Ed and Aunt Bet live at the ranch as well, and then they invite Bess and George to stay at the ranch and Nancy to stay at the ranch. That is what? 3 cowboys, 2 of the ranch owners, and then 3 people. That would be like 8 people. And you would need a separate bedroom for a lot of those people. So I assumed that they actually didn't live on the ranch, because then that would be like 6 bedrooms. And I don't think that the ranch has 6 bedrooms. I was able to fit 3 bedrooms in quite comfortably in the ranch, and I think that makes the most sense. So there ends up being a bedroom for Uncle Ed and Aunt Bet, and then there are 2 guest room spaces. I imagined that Bess and George would probably share one, and then Nancy would be in one of the other ones. And I was able to fit in 2 bathrooms as well. So yeah, the parking lot that we had back there was used primarily for that. So now the outside is really starting to come together. We've pretty much gotten the base of the chicken coop pretty much done and finishing up some of the landscaping. I had to pause to find some videos where I'm actually looking around. And now we're moving on to the stable area, which was pretty fun. It's not very full, I will say, because a lot of the items that would need to be in here, a lot of the horse-themed items, are not things that we have in The Sims 4 readily available. So I put a lot of the bones of the structure in, but not a lot of the decor of the structure in. I found these electricity poles in the debug menu, and I thought these were perfect because we actually see giant electricity poles in the background around the ranch. So I thought that was a lot of fun. It's just anytime I find something cool in debug, it's kind of like, well, I should probably just use that. I mean, it sounds perfect. And I found these posts, which were perfect, like the exact right size for what the horses would need. And I do end up finding a water bucket as well. So I sized these up and pretend that these would be the water buckets for the horse. I found some logs that I could use at the wood chopping area. Lots of awesome things in that debug menu that made it really helpful. I was hoping to find a rope or a chain that I could kind of hang on each of the posts, so then we could pretend that the horses would kind of be, that would be their tie-up spot, but couldn't find anything like that. So again, it's just the bare bones of the structure. We just do our best. I end up doing the inside of the shed with just kind of a lot of clutter. It's not necessarily the same clutter that Tex has in that room, but rather just a bunch of things. Same with some of the landscaping too, or some of the decor on the decks. I just kind of found a random plant here or there, or a random that random tub from Strangerville with a bunch of plants. Anything like that. And then I would flip through videos, and then I would end up in the chicken coop, or I would end up in the stable. So I apologize for the periodic pauses here and there, but breaks things up a little bit. Pretty soon we're going to get started on the actual structure of the second story of the house. When you go outside, you can actually see that side area of the house, the side that I roofed just a little bit ago. So there is definitely a build-out area from the living room, but there isn't a door to that space from the living room. Like when you're actually in the living room, you can't see a door that leads to anywhere else. So I end up creating one because that's clearly a room that exists on the house, but we just don't get to go in there. and they don't want us to know that it exists. It's very secretive. So I create that area in a little bit here, but doing the chicken coop now, I love that we have the dog doors, so I could actually create a little door for the chickens, and there's little shelves in there. Again, just the very bare bones. I wasn't able to actually put chickens in. I wasn't actually able to put eggs in anywhere, little tufts of straw, anything like that. Just the bare bones. So you can imagine that maybe they have horses here sometimes, or maybe they have chickens here sometimes, but perhaps not always. I have to find all of the debug items again because you can't eyedrop them, it's kind of a frustrating thing about the catalog, and I know a lot of people feel the same way and hope that they update that at some point. I kind of don't think that they're going to. That just doesn't seem like something that's probably on their radar. Probably not going to happen. So now we're going to work on Tex's little area. We don't have any saddles in the game or anything that even really looks like saddles, so I just put the pegs on the wall where that they would hang. And then I filled in this room with a bunch of clutter. Tex clearly does not care about keeping a very tidy space. He's probably very, I don't want to say minimalist, because this definitely isn't a minimalist space. It's not free of clutter by any means. But he's probably a very practical person. Like, if it doesn't need to be cleaned up and if it's just going to get messy in the next couple hours, then why would you clean it? So he probably just thinks, as long as I know where it is and I just can plop it on the floor, what does it matter, kind of thing. I gave him a woodworking table because that actually looks pretty similar to the table that he works on in the game. Cluttered it up with whatever I could find that looked like it might belong in this shed, like that tool set. That looked like it might belong in the shed, right? Couple decorations outside. A lot of the prop stuff from Get Famous actually worked pretty well because one of the kind of scenes from Get Famous in the acting career is actually kind of a cowboy-esque type theme. And you would think that that would mean that we'd actually have more items, but we really don't have that many actual cowboy-themed kinds of things to decorate with. Very few. And a lot of the ones that we did get were from Strangerville. And even then, we still didn't get very many. So we just did the best we could. I do really enjoy cluttering spaces. That's something that I've been doing a lot more in builds that I do in my free time, is trying to clutter them up so they actually look like lived-in spaces. Because I don't know about you guys, but I mean, just in general in houses, I think people will leave things on the floor sometimes, or they'll just put a random item, like a tablet or a pencil or something, just on whatever surface is available. I know our breakfast nook table has mail all over it, just because we'll like open it up, check it real quick, and then set it down when we're done. So it just, things like that make a make a home feel a lot more lived in and a lot more real. And I have really been enjoying doing that in my Sims game lately. So I wanted to try and do that with this space as well. Like the gardening tools and that bucket of random camping gear and the tool set, just anything, crates, boxes, the picnic set, anything that looked like it belonged there, I tried to put in. And I did like that we had the tubs from Strangerville that actually kind of looked like the feeding tubs that we found, that we had in Secret of Shadow Ranch. And the big pink bags, those reminded me of the pink pellets that you feed the cows. So I had that as well. And now, are we finally moving on to my favorite part? I think we might be. We're moving on to the actual structure of the second floor of the building. So when you look at the ranch house from the back, you can't see a second floor at all. So I imagined if there was a second floor, it would be pushed forward a little bit more, and maybe we just can't see it when we're in the backyard at all. So I played around with the roofing to find a way to get that all nice and cohesive. They have kind of this like bluish trim on the roof. And then I was looking for the same stucco pattern, but without the rocks, and I did eventually find that. Thank you, Jungle Adventure, for all of your glorious items. So here we are kind of moving the floor plan and adjusting it a little bit. I realized here that my couch had disappeared, and it actually it migrated itself into the kitchen, and I find it a little bit later, but it just kind of zoomed away when I made the fireplace, which is kind of funny. And then this is where I end up putting the stairs. I had to play around with them a little bit just to get the shape right, but thank goodness for the new stair tool. We didn't get this tool too long ago. Like, we haven't had it that long. But without it, I don't think I would have been able to do this build in a very realistic or nice looking way at all. The stairs would have had to be in a completely different place, and it wouldn't have looked like the game in its original form at all. So I'm really happy that it ended up this way. I found some stairs that looked pretty nice, and when I close them in with this wall here, it actually still looks pretty much like the space. So the bookcase in the corner, and then that tapestry on the side, just like it is in the game. I think it still looks like the game, but we are still able to have the stairs in there. And there I found the migrating couch a little bit. So I ended up being very happy with this floor plan. Next, we'll see me adding in some more windows and then the bedrooms on the upper level. So again, I was able to fit in 3 bedrooms in this build and 2 bathrooms. One of the bedrooms is downstairs and one of the bathrooms is downstairs, and then the upstairs has another bathroom and then 2 more bedrooms. So I imagined that the master bedroom would be the one with more windows, so it would be the one on the right, so that would be the room where Ed gets bit by the rattlesnake, gets bit by the rattler, and then I imagine Nancy's guest room would be the one on the left, because she got there first, so she gets first pick of guest room, and I would assume she would go with the larger one. And then this one on the bottom, I broke this up so that there was a little laundry area. I can't imagine that this ranch would not have a nice little laundry nook. It would just have to, with all of the dirty work that goes on at a ranch. Like, you would get dusty every single day. So I'm imagining that this laundry nook is constantly being put to good use. I use kind of a dark floorboard on the upper level. I know the first level was all primarily stone. But for people who, I mentioned this in the first part too, for people that live in warm climates and who have a lot of like terracotta tile and stone in your house just for the cooling effect, do you have it on the upper level too? Or is it only on the lower levels? It just seemed weird to me to have stone all up on the upper level. So I use this kind of dark floorboard that looks really rustic and still very like cowboy, ranchy, deserty to me. It just seemed more realistic to me, but I could be completely wrong. So let me know in the comments down below. If you live in that kind of house, do you still have stone tile on the upper level? Or is it only on the base level? I am curious. This is a thing that really annoys me as a perfectionist when I'm building in The Sims 4. The washer and the dryer are different colors, even though they are the exact same swatch. But it's because of the way that the light is placed that they end up looking different. That bothers me so much. I wanted them both to be kind of that yellowish beigey color. And one of them looks more yellow and one of them looks more beige. That just irks me. It's so frustrating. I do think that adding the stairs in actually made the flow of the bottom floor feel so much better too. Because originally it just felt like there was so much empty space. But now that the stairs were in there, it made it feel a little bit smaller and a little bit more bunched up, which I appreciated. I think that was much better. So now we're moving on to the bathrooms. I use essentially the same plumbing in the upstairs bathroom as I do in the downstairs bathroom. They're not very big, they're pretty small, and there's not an ensuite or anything, it's just a shared bathroom. But I imagine that this ranch house is pretty old, especially if Frances Humber and her father lived in this ranch house, then it's definitely very old. So I don't think that they're going to have like this fancy master suite by any means, or walk-in closets or anything. They probably are making do with the space that they have. They've probably updated the plumbing a little bit here and there, but a lot of it, I would imagine, is not terribly fancy. So finishing up the bathrooms, and then I just kind of move a lot of the same materials that we had, the same plumbing fixtures that we had in the upper bathroom to the bottom bathroom. I didn't want to put in a bathtub down in the bottom though, because it would clip with the window, and I wanted to keep that window in there. It looks better from the outside, and I think it's just nice to have that in the bathroom. I do eventually put curtains, so don't worry about that. Definitely want to have some good curtains. I picked this one for now, but I change it later. I just hate how bulky this one is. It sticks out from the wall like a foot, a Sim's foot, and I don't like it. That would be really frustrating, actually, in real life. And then I've been doing this lately in all of my builds. I'll put like a soap thing on the sink, and then I'll put a toothbrush on the sink as well. So then it feels a lot more lived in. If I had more counter space, I would also put more clutter on the counters, things like hair dryers and perfumes and clones and whatnot. And now we're doing the upstairs landing and just putting in some decoration to make the space feel a little bit more full. Trying to make it feel lived in. It probably wouldn't be completely empty. I made great use of the 9 and 0 keys to lift items up to surfaces where they wouldn't normally clip or connect very well. So great use of that key. Thank goodness for that key. And thank goodness for this mirror from Jungle Adventure. I use this mirror so much because it's like the perfect size to fill in a big empty wall. Okay, so now we're moving on to Uncle Ed and Aunt Bet's room. This is the master bedroom, and I really like how this turned out. I imagined them having this red quilt, so I used this bed from Cats and Dogs. This is probably my favorite bed in the entire game. It's very cozy, and I use it quite a bit. But this felt just like a space that they would really enjoy and that they would totally live in. I filled it up with a fair amount of clutter. I made sure to include a laundry basket and a mirror and a nice little chair. And then I put a bunch of things on the dresser just so it feels really full and lived in. When the light comes through the window, you can kind of see it on the side there. It just looks really, really nice. Right now I have the lighting set to afternoon, so the sun would basically be right above the house, and it's already coming in really nicely on that side. So I have to imagine that when the sun is rising, it would come through their windows, and it would be a really beautiful sunrise every morning. I should have put a coffee pot in the kitchen. They don't have one in the game, do they? But I totally imagine that Uncle Ed would wake up at the crack of dawn, right when the sun is rising through his windows. He would go get his coffee, and then out he would go to work. And I'm assuming a lot of the cowboys would be there pretty early too. I imagine Dave and Tex maybe are there nice and early. They seem pretty punctual. Don't know about Shorty. Shorty might kind of just roll in on his own time. Would he make all of the meals for the whole ranch? Would he make breakfast for everyone too? Maybe they do their chores and then they come in for breakfast afterward. And then Shorty has made eggs and hash browns and sausage and just a big old classic farm breakfast. That's why Nancy has to get the eggs so early. That's why that's the first thing she has to do, because Shorty has to make breakfast for everyone. That makes sense now. See, we all thought Shorty was just being frustrating, but actually he was being very practical. He wasn't just being annoying. So now we're moving on to the first guest room, and this is the one where I thought Nancy would stay. I decorated it with the Jungle Adventure bedroom set, and I just thought it was a really nice, fun color for this space. So it's still a nice bed, and it still has some fun colors. I didn't clutter this room up nearly as much because a guest room space generally wouldn't be, because it's not utilized as frequently. So I just added in lots of yellows and oranges and kind of turquoise, tealy type colors. Tried to make it feel nice and full. I imagine that Nancy would thoroughly enjoy staying in a room like this. She's stayed in quite a few rooms in her day, hasn't she? What is your favorite room that Nancy has stayed in? For me, it would be really hard to choose between the Chinese-style bedroom in Message in a Haunted Mansion and her bedroom in Blackmore Manor, in Curse of Blackmore Manor, the Moon Room. I think those two rooms are absolutely stunning, and it would be really hard for me to choose between the two, which one would be better. I would like to point out, however, that in real life, I would not stay in either of those bedrooms because I'm a huge chicken, and both of those rooms are terrifying because they're in very scary places. So while I appreciate them for their beauty, I don't think I would actually be able to stay there. What about you guys? The places that Nancy visits and goes to in the games, could you go there in real life? I could go to a lot of them during the day with other people. But things that Nancy does sometimes just blow my mind, and I could never do in real life, which is probably why I love playing the games so much, because in the games, I can go into a secret passageway in the dark with nothing but a glow stick and feel only minorly unsettled and make it work, like I could push through. But in real life, no. There's no way I would do that in real life. What about you guys? Do you think you could actually do some of the things Nancy does in real life, or are you just like me and you can only accomplish those things through a computer screen? So now I'm working on the downstairs guest bedroom. So this is probably when Bess and George do eventually arrive to the ranch after their whole airline debacle. This is probably where they would stay. I would imagine that they would share this little room. And it's definitely a smaller room. I wasn't even able to fit a dresser in here, so just the side tables. I put a little hook on the wall so that they could put their things there. But again, if you're traveling here and this is a guest room, then you probably have a suitcase, so they could put their suitcases on the side and be just fine. So now I'm kind of doing a last once over, looking at the ranch, making sure I didn't miss anything, filling in some of the empty spaces. Like here, I realize we probably need a front walk to the actual front door, so I add that in. And then I add a nice little seating area on that front porch. I figured that they would utilize that quite a bit. Just kind of sit there at the end of the day and have another coffee. I don't know, have a lemonade. Oh, I bet Aunt Bet makes really good lemonade. These couches were from the Caribbean-style update that we got, and I just love them. I think they worked perfectly for this space. Thought about adding a coffee table, but then it just ended up being too busy. Gotta keep things simple in a ranch house. Added some lighting. Again, just kind of the final touches, trying to make sure that everything worked out. I'm so pleased with how this all came together. This was a really fun build. It ended up being a lot more fun than I expected and a lot less intimidating than I expected. So quite pleased. Had a lot of fun with this one. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it as well. And now we're moving into the screenshots so you can see a little glance of how things actually ended up looking. Some shots of the house from the outside and a lot of the landscaping around the place. The seating areas, the trucks. I realized my terrain paint for the trucks deleted itself for some reason, so it stayed everywhere else. It stayed where it was important that it stay, which is good. Can you not see the guy sitting at that campfire? I love it. The pump house, everything turned out beautifully. I love the background, how you can kind of see the rocks and the mountains all around the ranch. That feels very much like we are in Shadow Ranch. The stables. Yeah, this was just such a fun project. Very happy with how it turned out. I will show screenshots too of the inside shots that we saw in part 1, but since this is the completed version, I wanted to include all of the screenshots. Our empty chicken coop. You can imagine that there are chickens sitting there. Our sunflower patch, which again you can probably fill with tomatoes and green beans. Empty horse stables that you can pretend are filled with horses. And then same with Tex's little space, his nice little workroom. I think he'd enjoy it in there. He'd be quite pleased. And then some of these interior screenshots that we saw on previous ones. So if you are enjoying these speed builds and you would like to see more, please let me know what other ones you would like to see. I have started to make a playlist that includes all of the builds, so you can actually watch all of the ones that I've done so far. The Lilac Inn, Nancy's House in Alibi and Ashes, Icicle Creek Lodge, all sorts of things. The Hot Kettle Cafe and whatnot, so please feel free to check those out. Oh, Sally's Cabin from Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. Feel free to check any of those out and let me know in the comments what other builds you would like to see. What other spaces in the games are you really holding out for that you would like to see recreated in The Sims 4? Some of them are really intimidating and scary. I would love to give them a try eventually. So no recommendations are off the table. Please just let me know what you think. Taking some pictures of the bedrooms now, the guest rooms, and eventually, yep, here we are in the master bedroom. All of these lovely spaces. I just love that screenshot with the sun coming through the window. The bathrooms, small but nice and functional. They have everything you need. We don't see them in the game, but I promise there are actually bathrooms in Shadow Ranch. Well, anyway, we're coming to the ends of the screenshots. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.